masculine man has masculinity. What he needs is femininity. You're the prize because everything in a woman is, there's sayings that if you give a woman a house, she'll give you a home. That what's more important, a house or a home? The home is more important, right? I used to flip houses. If an empty house is not mean nothing, is money to me. But I go back to every time I go back to California, I took my wife and I'll show people the house I grew up in. Why? Because that was my home, right? When you give a woman your seed, she gives you a life. When you give women, and everybody knows this, when you give women the space to be themselves and to be free, oh my goodness, there's nothing better than being in her presence.
The following podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, medical, or any type of professional advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations surrounding sexuality, relationships, and consent can vary by location and are subject to change. If you have specific legal or medical concerns, we strongly recommend consulting with a licensed professional in your jurisdiction. Listener discretion is advised, as this podcast may discuss adult themes and sensitive topics. By continuing to listen, you confirm that you are 18 years or older. Welcome to the Siren of Freedom podcast, sounding the alarm by bringing clarity and freedom to the realm of sexuality. Our aim is to give others a place to share their stories and release themselves from the weight of shame and guilt. Hello, everyone. We are back with Tiffany. Tiffany, right? Tiffany. We were just talking so much that we had to break it up into another part. But then off microphone, we got talking about the difference in approaches to sexuality. And Tiffany, you want to talk a little bit on the mic now about what we were talking about, how you approach relationships and sexuality, and what is your comfort zone and safe place in that? If that, or you can change the wording if I'm not describing it right.
So I've always been a little bit unique in regards to, for me, I love long-term relationships. I'm someone that enjoys once you really get into it and you have that security and that safety of knowing that you're in a committed monogamous relationship. And I've always had friends that tend to live a little bit differently and they're more fluid in their sexuality. And when they get involved in a sexual relationship, it's not necessarily in their minds the forever person. It's not someone they're going to marry. It's not someone that they're even interested in being committed to. And that's always fascinated me. I've never felt judgment towards it. I've never felt like it was wrong or bad. It just felt so much different because my soul craved something different in order to feel comfortable.
And is there any time in your life when do you feel like that's always been the way it's been? Or do you think there's somewhat of a safety net that you're putting out for yourself that you don't have that, for lack of a better term, riskier craving?
No, I think it would go back to what you were talking about earlier in regards to, for me, I want that depth, and I don't get the depth, or I don't notice my friends get depth through the more lighthearted, fun sexual experiences that aren't committed. So it tends to be more surface, like they don't dig and they don't
Right.
ask a lot of questions because I will ask them, hey, well, what about this? And they're like, nah, I don't need to ask them about that. I'm not going to marry him. I don't
No,
know.
because it really is like in my experience of just being single and just being free flowing in that area, it really was just like we were talking about being single moms and just pouring into my kids and my business and all this other stuff. And I knew that I logically just did not have the time to invest in a relationship. But I also was like, I want to have fun and I want to have stress relief. And so I would, and man, it just made for some good stories and the weekends when I didn't have the kids, you know? So I would just go out and do these things, but I wasn't searching for the depth at that time, you know? So that's, where I've always felt like it compartmentalized really easy for me is I could just have sex with someone, say, "That was an awesome time," high five them, and never speak to them again and be just fine with it. Whereas I had men that were like, "Wait," they would get attached. So sex, like I was saying, has never really been a currency for me of, like, building it's, like, helps build the relationship, but, it wasn't something I ever did to, like, try to keep someone or win them or anything like that. So it fascinates me then when you're like, "Oh, no, I wait for that." So tell us more about that because I think it's great.
Well, so I think that it would be similar to someone who says, "I'm looking for a BDSM relationship. This is what I'm looking for." And
Right.
if they meet someone that's not interested in that,
Yeah.
then they're probably just gonna move on. They're not even
Right.
gonna explore it or
Right.
test it because it's not what they're looking for.
Exactly.
And so I've always been someone of depth. I always wanna go deep to the point where kids made fun of me because I didn't really feel like I connected very well
Mhm.
because most kids don't go deep. They don't wanna psychoanalyze stuff. They're like, "That's enough." Like,
Mhm.
I will go into a dentist office and say, "Gosh, can't you tell that those plants are, like, screaming? They're dying over there. You're killing them. Like, can't you notice that? Doesn't anybody care? Don't they want I mean, to have a thriving business, you need to pay attention to the plants that are screaming over there because Tiff can hear them, and it's really ruining my vibe
Yeah.
waiting to see the dentist."
She's like an energy empath of all things living,
Yeah, I mean, the
animals,
trees
plants.
talk to me and plants talk to me, and so that depth, a requirement of that depth is waiting to have sex
Mhm.
until I get to the level that feels the most exciting for me,
Mhm.
and I would love to be able to have experiences like you have and be able to not need the depth in order to feel turned on or connected or solid with
Mhm.
someone. But I've had plenty of dates with men that say interesting things like, "Oh, how long has it been since you've had sex?" And I'll give them the number, and they'll say, "But don't you need a release?" And I'm like, "No, I can get a release. If you're looking for a release, I can get a release. That's not a problem." But
Right.
in regard
Amazon.com.
yeah, well, just in regards to sex, it's interesting to me that a lot of individuals are getting the more physical release, like a vitamin out of it, and I'm looking for something so much deeper and nuanced that is somewhat hard to find because think about it, if you were wanting to sleep with a character like me and you're like, "I just wanna have fun. I just wanna have a good time, and I don't have very much to offer in the relationship department." And I have all of these things that I have to receive in order to feel open in that way.
Mhm.
Being a sapiosexual where you're attracted mentally to someone, you're stimulated mentally, and that's one of the keys that unlocks all of those other things. It just makes it challenging, and one's not right or better.
Right.
I'm certainly not better
I think
than
it's all normal. It's just, like,
just
that's
different.
that's your normal, that's my normal. I've talked to plenty of people in all kinds of situations, podcast and not podcast, and it's just knowing what is the right thing for you in that situation.
Yeah, because a lot of people act like it's not that big of a deal, men and women alike, but in reality, it is a big deal to them.
Mhm.
They want something deeper, they want something longer lasting. And then you'll wind up butting heads, locking horns later on because you're thinking, hey, I just wanted, this is just a friends with benefits thing. Just wanted to see you, when I'm free
Yeah.
shoot you a text, "Hey, the kids aren't home. I've got time." And then they're like, "No, but I want a relationship. I wanna know that we're moving the ball down the field. I wanna know what the end game is." And you're like, "What are you talking about end game?"
Yeah. Well, and that's where, like, communication and just being really honest and straightforward, which some people I've always been like, "Hey, I'm not 100% with you. The love of your life could be around the corner, and I'm holding you back from somebody that will be 100 with you."
Yes. And
And
that
guys will be like, "Wait, we can get to the 100." I'm like, "No, we can't. Like, I can't get there." Like,
yeah.
you know? So, and it's a disservice to people to not openly communicate and, like, let them know what you want. And, like you said, some people don't even know. So,
And I think I've been pretty good at being able to tell if someone is really into me and in that depth way. And if they're not, they might be someone that says, "Hey, well, let's just have sex. Why wouldn't we? The opportunity is right here in front of us." And I don't wanna do that because I don't want them later on being hooked and wanting more because I am somewhat elusive for the
mhm.
most part. I will be elusive, and I will be skittish, and I will be non-committal, especially if I know that that's not the one for me. And I know that sounds funny, but I know when the person's the one for me. I feel it. And that's what allows me to release. Now, are they the one for me for a lifetime? Life has proven that you don't ever get to make that decision. They could be the one for a month, for 6 months, for a year, for 10 years, 20 years. I have no idea what that timeline is, but I know when someone is the one, they're the one in
Yeah.
my world.
If it's forever, if it's for a day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I want to challenge you a little bit.
Okay, please do.
But first, I want you to know this is coming from like, I'm a big fan. I've listened to you for an hour now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm a
I
big fan.
knew it.
And she did tell me, she said you were gonna love talking to her.
Here
So,
comes the
but I'm,
rough punch.
but I'm gonna challenge you. But I'll ask you a few questions first. What if you met the guy and you have that feeling, like you're an empath and he's there? Would you allow him to seduce you that night?
Yes, it moves faster. Probably, I wouldn't allow myself to go to that depth of level of physical interaction, and that there's no reason for that other than it doesn't feel safe for me. There's too many things I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm gonna challenge you because
Do it.
I know some guys. I think you just haven't experienced it because there's guys out there that can do both at the same time and still make you feel safe. And I just think you kind of close to it. And and what I'm saying is this.
And that's not bad or wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it. And this is what I love about that. Because I got a few questions on that end. What I love about you, you're the first person that is so committed to monogamy, but and yet doesn't judge or seem to judge people who are not. Because, on this podcast, we talk to a lot of different people, and everybody we talk to is not always end up on the show. So I love that part of you. But I'm like, I think what sounds to me, what you're saying is it's okay over there, but this is what I need to feel safe and not open to the fact that that guy might have every skill and if he does, he might be empathic enough to be like, "I'm not going to tonight, but I could. But I'm not going to because I know she needs that, but maybe in 2 weeks." Because I know if she needs to know that I can handle it, she'll know. And if she needs to know that there's a connection there, I'm gonna be safe and protect her through this process, you'll know within 2 weeks. Because I know guys that are that authentic and that genuine, but also that skilled in communicating. So I just say I would challenge you to open up to it. Just be open to somebody making
Just
you feel
unlock
that.
the door.
Yeah. So that was my challenge. And after that, I do have a few questions, but that's
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that that's gonna be my brand new little yellow Mustang, is to start looking for that, looking for men that have that skill set and looking for how I respond to that skill set because that is what I want to attract.
yeah, because what the reason why I believe in this is because when I attracted Siren into my life is because when I raised the standard that high. And sometimes your standards are too high and sometimes they're too low. And when I realized, no, I'm not like all these guys because I follow a lot of red pill content. I don't know if you're familiar with red pill content, and I'm totally against it, and and I'm really into these kind of things. And one of the things that I learned with attracting her is like I'm not like most guys. Are I'm simple. I just want a woman to feed me sandwich and give me a blowjob and leave me alone. No, I want, like you said, a three-legged race. I'm entrepreneurial. I want her to be. I'm freaky. I like, great, incredibly insane depth, shallow, all kind of sex with my wife. I want that. I want her to look attractive. I want her to be this. I want her to be intelligent. We also have very strong spiritual life. I want all these things.
Yeah.
And when I allowed myself to say, No, I want her to be able to be capable of that and get better and improve. That's when she came into my life. And when I start saying, well, I have to settle for this woman because, I can't expect this.
Yeah.
And that's when I ran into trouble. But there are men out there, trust me, that are that genuine. They're also, I met one this weekend for a podcast. He's that genuine. He really genuinely cares about your life, about you being better. But he's also so skilled. He knows he can go down to the bar, pick up a 10, no problem, bang her that night. And she's going to love the experience. And he's at this point now in his life where he's like, I can go either way. I'm tired of the that is so easy. It's so predictable. It's so I don't care. I really want to get into depth. But he also knows I got a high sex drive. I'm not waiting 6 weeks. I'm just not. But at the same time, I do want that sapiosexual empathic connection to that person. And I was like, oh, that's like me, because I'm that way as well. Like I can, I knew the night I met her. I just didn't know how to look for things. I would tell people all the time, I don't say this anymore, but I used to be a bad judge of character. And so it took me a while to just kind of figure out that what I felt was that connection with her. And it's like I knew I had the skills to take her where I knew she wanted to be taken because Siren has some extremely high expectations of the men she's with.
Well, so I wanna hear more about that because it's the exact thing that is interesting to me is that you were able to take somebody who is a little more, I don't know the verbiage that you would use, chill and open and didn't have to go to those levels of depth, and you were able to entice her to go into that land with you, whereas I'm often looking for someone that's already at that land rather than enticing somebody to get
Well,
there.
let me just interject for a second. We've talked about this. I'm not going to bring race stuff into it, but there are women out there that they already want that guy already like pre-built, right? But there is a lot of men that have gone through a lot of life and they're not necessarily a project, but when you plug in that feminine energy of your battery into them, they take off. And that's exactly what he was because I watched him and I was like, a lot of guys talk, but I was like, are you doing what you have to do? Like he was broke in a 2-bedroom apartment, just like starting his life over. And I had already had my company for like 6 years at the time, was making like $200,000 a year. Like, I didn't give a shit about money or their success. Like, I just wanted somebody who was gonna challenge me to grow, right? So, and in we haven't even been together. It's almost 4 years since we've met, and just like what he's accomplished with that feminine energy battery, just like a lot of guys just need that. They need that, and then they're like, boom, to the moon. So, that's also a challenge for a lot of women is they're, like, looking for this guy that's already got all his shit together, and he kept being like, "I gotta get my shit together," and I'm like, "Aren't we all getting our shit together, like, every single day in one way or the other?" I said that to you probably 1,000 times. I'm like, I don't have I might have my shit together, like, with, like, the business and stuff like that, but I've mentally and, like, intelligence-wise, like, I had so much to learn. So, it's just combining your strengths and knowing that you're helping each other and he might not but I just needed somebody, that was on he was a higher wavelength than me, and I was like, "Okay, I couldn't reach up and get that." But then he was broke, so he was, like, holding him back mentally, and I was like, doesn't even matter. Who cares about that? You're rich in,
Depth.
ideas and depth and intelligence and all these other things, right? So, there's a lot of guys that just they're not there yet, but if women will plug into them and I was guilty of falling in love with potential before him, but within a few months I would see, okay, this guy's talking, he's not doing. So he was talking and he was doing.
Right.
And then in my mind too, I was like, okay, he's saying all these things and I give him 2 years. I never said that to him during the time. I said I give him 2 years to get where I'm like, "Okay, this is gonna be a trajectory of, like, all the things he's talking about in business and everything else, and I will fully plug in and all this stuff," and at that 2-year mark, If he's not moving that direction at a good pace, then I'm gonna have to make a decision at that time. But I never had to make that decision because I plugged into him fully and then boom. So, I'm not saying that always happens, but I'm just saying that a lot of women are just looking for that pre-built package at our age, you know? Like, "Oh, he should already have a house and he should already have this stuff." Well, when a lot of guys just need that they need that feminine battery.
Yeah, I agree. And what was it like for you to just plug into the feminine battery that she had going on and be so embraced for the wealth that you brought to the table?
It was insane. I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, "Where you get that at, Walmart?" Like, because
It's like the missing piece.
I've said to people, and, people are gonna think I'm crazy or,
Who cares?
they're gonna think I'm arrogant, but I was like, "I think I'm the fucking smartest man in the room, but who cares if nobody else thinks that way?" And I said, "I just need one person to say, 'Oh, those crazy ideas that you do a lot of research on, you have mentors, you trial and error, read a lot of books, I'm not just talking shit. I'm gonna do these things,
Mhm.
and I'm doing research, and I've tried it before, and I failed, and I learned this lesson.' I have, you know, that people would actually believe that the principles that I live by and I'm taking action on, like, she's not looking for a guy with money. She has money. She knows she's seen people who got money and lose it. She's seen people that's been given money and they didn't earn it like she had to. She didn't come from, silver spoon in her mouth. She didn't grow up rich. Her parents were modest. Her dad was an
No,
entrepreneur, but
poor,
poor,
poor.
yeah.
I slipped on a box spring when I was
Yeah.
7 years old out of the dumpster.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like she understood that I'm a hustler. And she took me from a hustler to an entrepreneur and from an entrepreneur to a businessman. And so she saw that. And so it was easy for me to be like, oh, you're betting on me 100. You're down for me 1,000%. I'm gonna be down for you 1,000%. And but she
I
wants
would
the
say I was 900% for a long like, I made him prove himself.
comparatively 1,000% from my experience. But I'm gonna answer your question. And again, people may think I'm arrogant, but I'm not. Here's the thing with her. The reason why we have a show, and the reason why we have this show is because my wife is an insane, damn near nymphomaniac. The woman needs sex all the time. And one of the reasons why I was able to is because I had that skill. Period. I have been with a lot of women. I'm not proud of the number, but I have
Why not? It's
experience.
experience.
Not because of how much time I wasted on not doing more important things, and I could have learned the lesson with one third of the amount. But anyway, so that's number one. Number two, I was able to get her because she wanted to. She truly wanted to. It's just that the people in her life either wasn't that it didn't serve that, or they went deep on things that didn't matter in a marriage. Like, she's got some great friends that are highly intelligent and wise. I call some of them for wisdom and advice, but not in that relationship capacity. But she wanted to. She wants to understand the way things are. She wants to improve her intelligence. And so the sex was great. I opened up a lot of I had the skills to open her up sexually to, her body responding in a way she never thought her body could. And because society thinks a real man is a society thinks that men are good with women are players or gigolos or pimps or, fuck boys. But there are really sincere men out there that want to master love, they want to master connection, but they also want to master sex. And once you realize that all three of them have universal principles and commonalities, and you realize that they all actually fit together when you're authentic, then they break through your walls. Because I'm just hearing a bunch of walls. And you are supposed to have walls as feminine energy because you have to protect the fact that people are, in my opinion, women are the prize. And if you guys don't mind, I want to share a little example for guys. But the prize needs to protect itself. It's supposed to have some kind of something to protect yourself. So I think what you have is wise because the guy that has the skill sets, he'll duck those walls, so easily, and you'll feel comfortable with him doing it.
Well, and I've had those experiences, and they've taught me a lot. It doesn't matter how much someone earns, it doesn't matter what they look like, what demographic they come from, and that's been a fun experience to have, that it's not any of those things that you come up with in your mind. It's just this energy skill set that they come to the table with, and it'll knock you off your feet because it's not something you ever expected. It's the guy that shows up to mow your lawn, right? Or fix the it's the plumber that's fixing the plumbing or whatever.
Yeah, or the
Not a
not so
metaphor.
cute guy that you swipe right on Bumble, but he fills out his profile. He reverse catfished me. I was like, this guy's not very cute, but he's really like filled out his profile. He was intelligent. I'm loving that. So I'm gonna go for it. And then I show up and I was like, I didn't even say hello. I just said, "You're hot."
Yeah.
So
So if
never
I
know.
if I can just share this story, so or this example for any guys that are out there or for women that understand this process. And I'm sorry if you're not into sci-fi, but any of the guys, I'm speaking to the guys, and if you are the sci-fi person, then in almost every sci-fi, there's a prize, right? And I'm going to use the Avengers. So in this prize, they're the Affinity Stones. That's the prize, right? So it's one of them alone, like is the Tesseract, which is actually a real thing, right? Is one of the greatest powers you'll ever have in the universe. Okay, so that's the prize. So what do you do with the prize? It was kept in so valuable, it was kept in a alien land of beings so great they're considered gods, and they had their greatest people protected. You also do provision. What did they do? Now somebody had to pay for that building and for those people to protect that land. And you also please it. What do? You clean it. You give it right environment. You do everything to make that thing, whether it's a stone, a piece of art, the recipe for Coca-Cola, you preserve it the best way you can. The greatness for men and why a man can have women chasing you, and even though she's the prize, is that what does a prize want? It wants to be protected. It wants to be provided for. And it doesn't have to be financially. My wife just told you when she met me, I was broke, but I was in between businesses. I'm a businessman. So she found me when a business failed, and then she saw the potential that I have. So she knew I can provide spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and financially. And I can please, right? In the sense I can take care of her. So for me, you just gotta you just gotta meet that man who says, I know how to do those things, but not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And if you're lucky enough, spiritually. And that just means for me, it means you don't have to be in the same religion as I do. Anything greater than yourself. Even if you're an atheist and you just have something greater than yourself, that can be your spiritual life. Right. So what I say for women is look for a man that understands that concept. He might not be able to explain it, but he understands. For me, the greatest power is feminine energy plugged into a man. Doesn't mean that he can be the house husband, but when feminine energy plugs into a masculine man, it allows the greatness of a man to come out. And it's been proven scientifically so. Men who are married live longer. It's proven scientifically so. Almost all successful men are in long lasting, committed relationships. And the Bible talks about it all day long. There's several scriptures that talk about it's better to live in the corner of a house than with a quarreling woman. And there's also things that say there's nothing better than when you find a good wife. So I think if you can start creating or manifesting a man that understands that, he'll show up.
Well, I think a part of that you didn't mention is the female in that equation has to begin to see themselves as that prize. And so there's a lot of work to be done around seeing yourself as the prize when perhaps you've seen yourself as the tool to a man's happiness or a tool to their dreams. And you've been content with being that tool. You don't feel like a prize. When you have certain experiences in your life that have and they start in childhood, right? Where you feel like you have to earn love because everyone's so busy. You know, you're the oldest of 4 kids and everybody's busy and your parents are divorced and your mom's working 3 jobs and your dad's doing his thing. And in order to feel like a prize, you have to earn it. And that is contrary to what you're talking about, because when you're the prize, you don't have to earn it, you have to be it. And that's a whole process.
Yeah.
And
How are you being the prize right now?
right. How are you being the
Right.
prize?
You, Tiffany. How are you being the prize?
Well, I'm working on pulling back that energy and allowing myself to conserve it and just be who I am and make those decisions based on feeling like I am my own prize. It's not about anyone externally saying that I'm a prize.
Right.
It's about me saying, "Oh my gosh, you're a prize. Tonight let's take a bath."
And can I jump in and say something to the ladies? If you don't bel there's so much evidence, and it doesn't care if you go scientifically, religiously, you're the prize because, 1, you have life, you are the porter of life. You're the prize because when a woman or when a person feeds into you in the thing that you don't have, it makes that thing better. A masculine man has masculinity. What he needs is femininity. You're the prize because everything in a woman is, there's sayings that if you give a woman a house, she'll give you a home. That what's more important, a house or a home? The home is more important, right? I used to flip houses. If an empty house is not mean nothing, is money to me. But every time I go back to California, I took my wife and I'll show people the house I grew up in. Why? Because that was my home, right? When you give a woman your seed, she gives you a life. When you give women, and everybody knows this, when you give women the space to be themselves and to be free, oh my goodness, there's nothing better than being in her presence. That's natural for every woman. Unless you are dysfunctional, gentlemen, unless that woman you're around is dysfunctional, if you're a real leader, you can bring that out of her. Every woman's the prize. And if she's not the prize, it's because something damaged her. So it's just like your stomach, your digestive system, if it works, if it's not dysfunctional, it will digest your food. You know that. Period. Point blank. It's the same with any woman or people you have in your life. If you treat that woman the way she's supposed to be treated, not what society says, not what the religious organizations say, not what your uncle said, not what Andrew Tate says on no. If you find out what women truly need, and then that's in general, then you got to get to know that woman that you are with, her particular needs and wants. You did that and you provide with the things that she needs, she's going to blossom into such a blessing for you. I guarantee that. I guarantee that. And that's what women don't understand. Like you said, you just have to exist. The first step is to stop thinking that you have to prove yourself to anybody. Because women are naturally just existing the prize, and you feed into them, they feed back into you tenfold. That's just how it works.
Well, and you said it so perfectly that the woman herself has to protect the prize first. And so if she's not caring for and honoring herself and taking care of her needs and sitting there dreaming, wishing, praying that some man is going to come forth and be Prince Charming, then she's not really being that prize. She's not being that thing that a man would be attracted to, that he would so naturally want. As the feminine energy comes in is like a dream maker. It makes dreams come true for men, and it's just that wonderful energy, and that's why we want the masculine and the feminine to come together so that we can have that, and many people think that they're gonna be rescued in one way or another. Like, I'm not a prize because financially I don't have the bank account I want. I'm not a prize because I don't have the body that I want. I'm not a prize because I'm broken in this way. I have anxiety, I have depression, I have a funny nose, I've got a weird freckle on my forehead, whatever it is. And your job as a woman and as the prize is to begin to look in the mirror fully naked and see yourself as a prize, because it is only then that others will begin to see that energy radiating off you, and they will also see you as a prize. And that's the hardest part of this work, is beginning to get naked. I mean, the older you get, I hear women say, "Oh, I haven't looked at."
Siren loves that. The beginning of getting naked. She loves that part.
I'd just be naked all the time if there was nobody at my house besides my husband.
Well, and that's the beautiful part about it, is how many women do you know who say, "I haven't even looked at myself naked in, like, so many years." I'm part of some of these fun perimenopausal groups on Facebook, and they'll say, "Oh my god, I actually looked at this, like, part of myself and it changed color, or this happened," and I'm like, "Well, like, how long has it been since you checked yourself out?" And they're like, 10 years?" Like, they literally don't check themselves out. And I think it's important to love all of you just like you would a partner. You're gonna check them out, you're gonna check out everything, and you're gonna smell them, and you're gonna taste them, and you're gonna notice things about them. And so you have to do that for yourself, and you have to see yourself as someone that is special, and that is a prize, and that is worthy of good treatment. And what I see in my practice, men and women alike, but women do this quite a bit, they're metaphorical cutters. They just cut themselves apart, and they dress for other women, they don't dress for themselves. I've gotten to an age, I'm 49, where if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna dress so that I feel like I have the most mojo, and usually that's a pair of sneakers, something that I can walk in. It's not gonna be heels for me, whereas I have a lot of girlfriends that look great in heels. They can wear stilettos, and they feel super sexy, and they rock them. But in order for me to be the prize that I am, and one thing you guys can see right now is that I have gray hair. That was a huge transition for me because I said to myself, the prize is my hair is turning this color and it's creating these interesting tints, and I'm like a weathered beach house. And the man that's going to be attracted to that needs to see what he's going to be attracted to in the first place, because if I keep covering that up, and the older I get and the more I see certain women altering the prize or creating the prize in one way or another, that road is so hard to maintain when you get into your 60s and 70s. So at some point you have to
Mhm.
let that go. At some point you have to let all of the beauty things go, and that's why we say, men age so well compared to women. And I think it's because they really do see themselves clearer in that way. They have other dysfunctions like money. A lot of men don't see themselves as the prize unless they have a certain amount of money, and that's very sad that that's what they would see about themselves. But as far as the physical appearance, I feel like a lot of men just age gracefully. They just allow themselves to age. Women, on the other hand, don't feel like a prize unless they can conform and fit into what society says is the prize.
Mhm.
And that is one thing that I would like all women to be able to do, is just look in the mirror and just say, "You know what? Whatever makes me feel good." If it's continually keeping your hair a certain color, then do it. Great. That's what makes you feel good. But if you're someone like me that one day woke up and said, "Gosh, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. So much money. It's $200 a month plus tip for me to keep coloring my hair. I'm kind of over that. I'm kind of just want to fall in love with me." Actually, I'm really curious with what my hair would look like if I stopped doing that. That's a 2-year venture, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't an
It'd be
overnight.
way longer for me.
It's not an overnight thing, and I think when you're building your new character, you're allowing it to grow and build. It's not an overnight thing. You have to really put the investment into figuring out who you are. I mean, I remember after my divorce, I was standing in Alversons and I just started sobbing. And it was like this interesting crying experience where I was almost hysterically laughing and sobbing because I didn't know what to buy when I wasn't shopping for my husband. I did not know what groceries to buy when I wasn't factoring in the things that he had liked to eat that I had done for 15 years.
Yeah. I
And
was like that with clothing.
it was absurd.
I couldn't when I walked around the mall and I did not know what to buy because he was so critical over everything that I would wear or not wear that I didn't know how to, and I worked in retail with women, you know? So, no, that resonates.
Yeah, I think it's just finding out who you are, and that each and every one of us is a prize, and all the uniqueness, the frequency of which you have sex, because there's someone for everyone. So there are some people that don't love sex, and then there's a man out there that honestly doesn't love having sex all the time. I worked with a lot of engineers that are very cerebral, and some of them, their energy is just really way up high, and so it's not below the belt. And I think it's it's cool that everyone has
Yeah.
their
Well, and you really can't, just think if we all had like the same levels and they were all high, like we as a society would cease to exist as far as the economy because we'd never, because like if Socrates always matched me or vice versa, it's like we might never leave our house, right? So you have to have that balance of pursuit, versus, being chased, etc. Because, otherwise we just won't be inside fucking.
Well, you have to be who you are, because I can't tell you how many male clients I've had that have dated women that in the beginning, they're all in because that's how they kind of capture. That's the honey pot. And then within, I'd say 6 months or so, they're really not that into it. Any of the activities, they're not into any of the sexual activities. I mean, they'll do the Saturday night thing, and the guy comes to me like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "She's probably never liked it. This is not her thing, and you're not gonna change it. She's probably never liked it." And he's really high sex, right? He loves it. And so she knew how she needed to conform in order to be in a relationship with this man. And, I think men do that too, vice versa. But the more authentic you get with yourself, the better the relationship is going to be as you get into it.
Were you hoping it would wear off? I would calm down.
I just didn't believe it was that you could stay that high for that long.
Yeah.
I was hoping it stays that high.
Yeah.
And you just challenged me to get better, healthier. Just get healthier. I'm like, I'll catch up to you. I mean, I'll never be where you're at, but I'm like, I'll get to a point where it's like, okay,
Well, it's
I know
helpful for everything. Sexual energy is the most powerful energy that you
life
can
force.
possibly tap into. And that's why they say that men, they're so invested in the sexual energy and they dump it into women in their teens, in their 20s, and their 30s. But what happens in their 40s is they take that same juicy energy and they put it into business. They put it into making money. They put it into even relationships because the energy isn't necessarily just sex.
Mhm.
It's that cool vibe that's created throughout that, and that can be utilized anytime, and it's very powerful. People can feel it and sense it. And you can sense when someone doesn't have it, where it's flatlined, a server, a waitress that just has 0, and you go, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah.
It's just she probably doesn't attract the same tips. I'm not talking about being flirty. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. It's just an energy of connection that goes deeper. It's fun. It's playful. It's flirty. It's a good time.
Well, Tiffany, I keep doing my Bot Girl voice. We're going to have you back again so we can record some more things. But I'm anxious to see where you take all this in the next 3 months. And I want to follow up and see where you're at. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
No more waiting, no more chains, breaking rules, rewriting names. This is our time, this is our fire. Hear the call, we're rising higher. On your truth, live out loud. No more fear, stand up proud. You were made to rise. This is your time.
Thank you so much for listening today. We hope this podcast has been an encouragement to you. You can find us on our website, thesirenoffreedom.com, and also on social media and Patreon under the Siren of Freedom podcast. Your support is what helps us continue to sound the alarm of freedom.